Let's take a look at some official predictions for this Saturday's UFC. And I got to tell you guys, I put this off a little bit. I hate anybody that comes out and gives a prediction. And what they're really doing is telling you which athlete they like more. Well, this is going to be a really close one. And what that really means is, I kind of know both of these guys, and they're both kind of good guys. It's very difficult when you have a main event of DC versus Stipe, who you have seen compete 2 times at the same weight class under the same rules and get vastly different results. I mean, it puts you at a very hard stop where if you want to lean towards Stipe, okay, great. But if we're going to have a conversation, I need you to tell me why. And if you bring up that he's a handsome guy or he's a fireman or he loves his wife, I appreciate all of those things. But what in the hell's that got to do with what we're talking about? Why do you believe that Stipe is ready to stop the takedown that Daniel Cormier has vehemently invoked and promised that he is going to do 5 times over? What is it that you believe is going to change? Are you going to bring in the narrative of the smaller cage, which according to Stipe himself favors the grappler Daniel Cormier? Are you going to bring that in? Or are you going to talk about the body shots? Are you going to talk about weigh-in? I'm open to anything. I just need a reason. Otherwise, we're doing a popularity contest. And there is some intangibles here. Whatever the hell you want to do with the small cage, you know something that I don't. I don't know a damn thing about a cage or a ring or ropes, about a wrestling atmosphere or the back of a parking lot. I don't know a damn thing about it, but I'm willing to listen and go ahead and hedge your bet. If you want to make some kind of noise about the weigh-in, now you're going to have me listen a little bit more because numbers don't lie. And what those two weighed in at for those 2 contests is very relevant in my opinion. And my opinion is not only shared by me, it is shared by Daniel Cormier, who, whether he's telling the truth or not, is also advertising right along with that big takedown he plans to hit 5 times in a row, that he's dropped his weight, that he's coming in south of 240. I can only share with you because this is probably going to be a game time decision. If you have Stipe right now and you want to come out and have DC tomorrow, you've done nothing wrong. You sound like most people. You can go back and forth. And in many ways, I do think, look, whatever DC has to weigh, he has to weigh. Whatever that ideal number is, I actually don't know. Neither does he, neither do all of us, but we do believe that a little bit smaller is a little bit better. That we at least collectively agree. So if DC has now come out and told us that he's going to be south of 240 and he comes in north of 240, you are going to be left with a big question of why. What happened here? The commission may say that the weight is anything 265 and below, but when a fighter himself tells you it's 240 or below and he comes in over that, you are stuck at the question of why. When a fighter lays out for you, it is important for my conditioning as well as my speed and my timing that I come in at this number, and he then does not do it. You are fair to ask why. What happened? Did we miss some workouts? Did we not work hard enough? Did we eat a little bit too much? There's no wrong answer, but it is a built-in part of the story that we're really not going to know until the weigh-in. And in all fairness, what in the heck's going on with Stipe? Nobody's talking about his weight. Stipe weighed in at 230 for the last fight. That's problematic for me. Now, I'm never going to get any airtime to voice all of my concerns with the heavyweight champion of the world taking off 11 pounds of muscle when he wins the fight. And therefore, I never have. But that is problematic to me. Let's say he does it again. Let's say Stipe does the exact same thing for the 3rd fight that he did for the 2nd fight, which is he lost 11 pounds. If Stipe Miocic gets on that scale at 219 pounds, are you guys going to now tell me you don't see a problem here? I don't suggest for you this is going to happen. What I do suggest for you is, as far as making a prediction and opinion goes, you could go left today and right 10 minutes later. I'll share a personal story with you because I did just that. Fight number 1. Stipe versus Daniel, they're going to fight. It's the first ever champ thing, man. I'm into the market. I'm into the poster. They both got a belt. Hogan versus the Warrior. Let's go have some fun. But DC, if you're a DC fan, you better get the address of the local hospital so you can be prepared to send flowers, okay, if you know what I'm saying. So they go out, they walk out there, and they're doing a media day. And this is Thursday of fight week. So by example, once you're done with media day, you are now free and clear. You'll have one obligation. Any organization, any weight class, any way you do it, you are 100% on your own on weigh-in day. You come, you make weight, and no PR, no media in the world nobody will ask you to do anything after weigh-ins. You walk away, you're with your team and family, and there you go. So it's media day, our last time to see DC. Now, I'm well aware of what's going to happen. Daniel Cormier is about to get cleaned up. He bit off a little more than he can chew, and hopefully he had some fun doing the Ultimate Fighter, and off you go. Daniel Cormier grabs a microphone. He says, guys, let me give you some advice. I happen to be a 2.5-to-1 underdog, but I will remind you, I have never lost a fight at heavyweight. I have never lost a wrestling match at heavyweight. As a matter of fact, I've never lost a round at heavyweight. So if you want me to do a favor for you, get to the window while the odds are still good. I remember where I was sitting. I just pulled back. Oh my goodness. That's true. That's very true. I followed Daniel's career when he moved up to heavyweight for 1 year as an amateur wrestler, but he had some very hard matches. He met up with Steve Mocco just by example. When Daniel tells you that he's never lost, Daniel's never lost. I followed him to Strikeforce when he couldn't get an opportunity at light heavyweight. So he jumps into the Grand Prix as the number 9 man. It's an 8-man tournament. He's the number 9 man, if you will. They throw him in at the last second. Murderer's Row, he goes through all of them. Not to mention he went through all of them. He went the distance with Josh Barnett, who in my opinion is the top 3 of all time. Daniel never lost a round. It was one of these really relevant things where it was kind of like the cold water and you got to get slapped in the face with it. I only bring that to you because I'm not sure we don't have the same thing. Before we go and hedge our bets, and right now these guys are dead even. The line has them both at a negative 110. Well, if you're 110 and he's 110, we're even money, right? I think we got to get through the weigh-in. I can't get off that. I think we got to get through the weigh-in. And you, of course, have the intangible. Where is Daniel's mind at? This is going to be his last fight. Is he a foot in and a foot out, or is he extra motivated? And guys, I will bring you back to this, and you can't really self-identify and go, well, if I was done, I'd sure want to go out on top, or I guess I wouldn't really care either way. You really can't personalize it, because that can be different to each individual, and an athlete in a competitive sport will always put themselves in the best situation. If an athlete's been out for 2 years for whatever reason, like Dominic Cruz has done before, Dominic Cruz will convince himself that that's the best spot because he had time to rest and prepare. An athlete will put themselves in whatever they believe for themselves is the ideal situation, and Daniel Cormier is the one that created this narrative. Nobody told Daniel, here's your hat, what's your hurry? Do one more and then take your shoes for a walk. That didn't happen. Daniel came out with that. I think it would be a bit naive if we are to hear that and then make a decision that that's going to be a negative. I think it would be a bit presumptuous to hear that and go, boy, he's going to want this one more than ever. I default back to the weigh-in. If an athlete comes in at a lighter weight or thereabouts, in fairness, to their most competitive weight ever, that is going to answer the question of the discipline. That is going to answer the question of the quarantined training camp in a garage. You're not going to have any questions if that athlete can make weight. It's extremely relevant. I would maintain for you one of the reasons that Chimaev is the fastest rising star in the sport right now is simply because he did 2 weights. I appreciate 2 fights in 10 days, probably not as much as most people. I lived through the era and no pat on my back. We fought 2 and 3 guys in one night. I appreciate 2 guys in one day. I'm shocked that he fought 2 guys at 2 different weight classes in 10 days, starting with the heavier weight class first, pulled the weight off, made the lower weight class second, while essentially on vacation on an island. I bring that to you because there's more to the weigh-in than you might know. There's a reason promoters spend a whole bunch of money and bring out a weigh-in. There's a reason the commissions write these things down and have them binding contractually, complete with fines. The weigh-ins matter. And in this particular weight, Stipe damn sure better not done what he did the last time, which is take off 11 more pounds, regardless of the outcome. And Daniel, I think, needs to really be within this realm that he set for us of this 240 range. And I think we can have a whole different conversation. Sean O'Malley has never told you guys who he's fighting. By the way, I'll tell you, he's fighting Vera. Sean has not let any of you know. But Sean has also never lied to us before, and he says he's going to get Vera out of there. That's between those two boys. If I'm making a prediction, I think the Sugar Show lives on. I think there's something to be said for momentum, and I'll tell you one that's going under the radar. The one that's going under the radar is Rosenstruck versus JDS, and there's a lot to this story. If you were to pull me aside and go, Chael, who's the best boxer in MMA? You'd have a few guys that you could choose from. Your Frankie Edgars of the world are going to come out there, and Freddie Roach even gave us one that I think was a little bit of a surprise. He declared it was BJ Penn was the best boxer, so you're always going to have a little bit of this conversation. I have always maintained it's Junior Dos Santos. I think the way he holds his hands, I think that ferocious uppercut, I think the way he moves his feet, I think with his pace and endurance, not to mention if you just go look at his wins and losses and how many fights have ended by knockout standing on their feet, not to mention the night he won the world championship over Cain Velasquez, I say it's Junior Dos Santos. If you go and look at Rosenstruck and you go look at his resume and what he's done on paper, you're going to come to a very good conclusion, many, that it's him. If you saw his last fight and you saw him get hit with a rocket, known as a right hand from Francis Ngannou, and you don't know anything else about Rosenstruck, you're probably going to be less impressed, but you will be very misled, okay? That shot that put Rosenstruck down against Ngannou, that would have put a mule down. That would have put a horse down. Nobody could have taken that shot, right? It was Masvidal versus Askren all over again. Feel free to tease all you want, but you couldn't have taken it either. Reason I bring that to you is when you have a guy like JDS, who's very good on the ground, but he's very good on the feet, who has a history of fighting fights on his feet and does not have a history of being great in the wrestling department and changing the realm, you now have a stand-up fight with JDS. Okay, great. But if you go look at what Rosenstruck did, Rosenstruck's record in professional kickboxing is very similar to Izzy Adesanya's record in professional kickboxing. One of them is 28-3, and one of them's 27-3 off the top of my head. I mean, they're very similar. And this is a game that Rosenstruck likes to play. Now, a little bit of a backstory that you guys might have some fun with. Turns out these two knuckleheads are teammates. Turns out they both belong to the ATT. I belong to the ATT Portland. I didn't know these guys were at the Lee Gym in Coconut Creek. That was news to me. So now it's always a question, well, how do you do that? Right, there's only so many heavyweights in a room. In all fairness, any room you have, I mean, a heavyweight is a very sought-after guy, just for the body. You got a heavyweight that's trying to make his way through the ranks. He needs somebody to work out with. There's not a lot of heavyweights. The only reason I bring that to you is if the ATT in Coconut Creek has so many bodies that they can just separate these two for two different training camps, okay, fine. They have a luxury that other gyms don't have. But if they're putting them in the same room and now there's a sparring going on, or okay, let's not spar because we might have to fight someday, but it's a grappling day. Let's get on the ground and roll around and try to trade arm bars. I'm just saying there's a very good likelihood that these guys have some level of experience with each other. Whether that's been advertised to us or not, okay? If you want to get the word out there, you could do one of three things. You can telephone, telegraph, or tell a fighter, because none of them can keep a secret. So let's say these guys have their own training times, and let's say they're blessed with the luxury of multiple bodies and multiple coaches, and they can do it all under one roof and never see one another. Okay, fine. You think those coaches don't talk? You think those workout partners don't talk? You think a guy that prefers JDS doesn't stick around a little bit and watch Rosenstruck and vice versa? That's just life. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a story there. I think it's been a little bit of a miss of these two teammates who, when all is said and done, are going to have to return to the same roof. And if now you're not preparing for each other and you're not separating, why not just become workout partners? It would make sense. It would be a little bit awkward. I think we all like a little bit awkward. They forced the guys on The Ultimate Fighter to do it. What's the difference with Rosenstruck and JDS? Oh, by the way, I think I told you I was going to make a prediction. I'm taking Junior.